So I think having a business partner for starting your first business is definitely helpful. Hi, welcome back to another episode with Lauren, where I talk to you about entrepreneurship. That's a new intro that I just came up with, so let's see how that works. Tell me what you think. Today I want to talk about ESBI. ESBI just means these 4 quadrants of you being an employee, a self-employed person, or if you're a business owner or an investor. The ESBI has been around as a concept by Robert Kiyosaki, and if you have not read any of his books, I strongly, highly recommend you to do that. I have read Rich Dad Poor Dad many years back ago when I just started business. So as we speak ESBI, I'm not going to talk so much about E because that's the most easy step that everybody can get into. You just have to create your resume, just send it in, talk to a recruiter, get an offer, and then bam, you are an employee. The downside of an employee is, of course, you using your time to change for the money and the benefits that you agreed to work for. So today I want to talk about the S models that I have been in and how it has kind of impacted the way I look at things and the different models to how you can also explore to become a self-employed person. So first of all, let's throw back to a couple years back where I started my very first business called kimtua.com. I am a Taoist, and that was kind of triggered by my late sister's passing. Big shout out to Billy. Thank you for being the only human who I thought that the idea was cool enough, and we did crazy things. We really did massive amounts of madness. What we did back then in the e-commerce was really just a very straightforward case of buying stocks and then repackaging them, coming up with marketing plans to then resell them. We used Shopify as a platform, and of course there was a lot of photo taking, creating websites. Also shout out to Ife. I know we've not talked in years, but thank you so much for your crash course for me on Google AdWords back then. Now that crash course was what kind of really set things apart, because when we started our e-commerce back in 2017, the keywords were really cheap to purchase. I think the cost per click for each of our keywords, which is joss paper or like prayers, all these really exotic keywords, was just 20 cents, 30 cents per click, while a lot of businesses were attracting keywords that were costing about $3 to $5 per click. So we kind of had it easier in that sense. And of course, we were much more into Instagram. We just posted things as normal. But we did a little bit of Google AdWords. And the whole experience for running a S business is that everything is hands-on. And if somebody told you that, by doing your own business, you work lesser hours, they are just plain outright lying to you. I have never worked that crazy amount of hours. And of course, Googling and researching for joss paper at 3, 4, 5 a.m. It's now still, looking back, the funniest kind of moments that I have while starting up that business. We ran a total of 4 years in that business before we decided to close it right after the COVID restrictions. The entire experience was great because we learned how to deal with suppliers and how to deal with customers, what comes in with packaging and what attracted people. We were so much into content creation that we were doing tutorials for folding joss paper. We were doing tutorials for writing 封条, which is basically what you use as like a postage letter to your ancestors, and you have to write names, you have to write dates. We were doing like tutorials for those things. It was one of the most fun businesses that I've ever started, if I'm really being honest. Yeah, I would give this experience 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 actually, because it was just so fun creating everything. And my favorite part of that business was when we had to pack packages to go out to the customers, because I love to play Tetris. Tetris is my favorite game. Tetris came alive because in a box of an empty carton, I have to start filling in my stocks that I'm selling to my customers, and it's about how do I fit this thing there. It was like, Tetris. I just loved it. It was so fun. And then we had a lot of strategic partnerships with other businesses in other lines. Like we had a Roasted Delights partner whom we would then order items from them and package it and sell it to our customers as like a one-stop shop. Yeah, I still have so many fond memories of that business. And in fact, that was the only business that when it closed, I cried. I was so down for a long time. That was my first experience doing an S business. And then down the road, I met some friends. We really loved leather shoes from Bali. So what we did was to go take a trip to Bali when sourcing for suppliers who would then be able to make shoes based on what we needed. And then we brought back certain quantities and we came back. So that one was a bit interesting because we didn't sell it online. We were just a Instagram presence. And then all we did was running stalls. Was it Christmas markets, was it flea markets, or community markets? That's what we did. And the sales was not too bad actually. But I felt like personally, I didn't really like a business that had to deal with inventory. I just couldn't. And especially when it comes to shoes. So just within the three of us, we have so many sizes, and each design would require that amount of stock, and storage becomes a problem. Thankfully, because one of our partners had a physical store, so she allowed us to put the stock there to kind of clear it out, and then we closed everything off from there. So if you ask me how that experience was, it is fun, and I would recommend you to try out small businesses with your friends. It's contrary to the popular belief that you would not like it when you do business with your friends. But I think that there are people who are different, and I think that if you know how to navigate around things, it's worth a shot. Because, like I said, jack of all trades, master of one, but still better than a master of none. Now, the last thing that I was dabbling in with physical inventory was my crystal business. I love this whole spiritual part of myself. I love this whole crystals, tarot cards, oracle cards, a bit more delving into Reiki. We talk about healing personally, we talk about personal development, how we get better. But I think that there are just some people who we can't work with in the long run. And when it comes to working together with someone, the expectations must be set and it must be followed through. And I think that when it comes to assumptions, please do not. That's the only thing I can say. Getting used to new workflows is quite disruptive if you don't set them up properly at the start. I think that when it comes to marketing, it is very important when you are doing a self-employed business. Your brand must be strong, you must know what you stand for, and you must know what the business goals are, because everybody has to come on board with that. You can't assume that you're just going to work towards it. Nobody is just that automatic. I won't say that the business failed, I'll just say that we went all our own ways and that I am now left with this bunch of stocks. It gels well with the tarot card business that I do, so it's also another S business. The tarot card business is pretty straightforward, and it's something that I wanted to point out because it's skills based. Now, I was always talking about inventory and physical stock based businesses that are under the S category. Insurance is an interesting model because when you come into insurance industry, you sell and you would get passive income for the next 6 years, because every policy you sell would have and attract commissions up to 6 years. So that's skills based, just like tarot card. Of course, like I said, in all S businesses, your branding is very important. You have to start and be maintaining a very strong branding so that the business would be able to then attract and also be able to retain clients. The last S business that I have been doing is Kiss, right? The office that I'm in. So Kiss was a really interesting business that I started. I had my first client walk up to my door, who was my friend, and she said, "Look, I need help. I don't know how to do interviews. I don't know what I need to say, but I need to hire someone because I'm dying in my business. I have so much sales and I have so much inventory to manage. I just can't do it alone." So she became my very first client because that then helped her to set up protocols to interview. I then helped her to set up things like her employee handbook, and I then started to help her with more HR things. So it was kind of like a HR outsourced service that I was doing, and it still is pretty much what Kiss is doing right now. I would actually rank like consultancy, although it is skills based, but I will actually rank it the highest in terms of like difficulty. Kiss is undergoing a kind of pivot right now because I'm trying to change the business from pure consulting to also including some form of trainings, whether is it for business owners or for managers. So if you're a business owner who is looking to learn more about HR, well, subscribe to this channel because I will be sharing a lot more about HR things here on this channel. And I also run a workshop monthly, and you can find that event on Eventbrite. I will also link it in the description. But it's information that you should know as a business owner. What are the 101 things that you must know when it comes to business, HR, and how do you align that? A lot of business owners come to me is that I don't know how to do HR. I don't know what HR is. So that was the reason why I decided to start out with creating this workshop. It runs monthly, so just check out Eventbrite. It's been a lot of me talking about all these ESBI. I covered a little bit about E, and I talked about my experience with S. So how has moving from E to S changed me? I had to think about the answer for a while. The version that you know of me today is definitely not the version whom I was back when I was an employee. I still do believe to this day that, of course, as an employee, I took much more initiative than a lot of other people, which was why I was quickly promoted in my job. But I think that as what in essence is different is that the level of hardworking and the level of critical thinking is so much more different while you are in the S quadrant versus when you are in the E quadrant. While in the E quadrant, you have a lot of people to look for in terms of guidance. You have your managers, you have your bosses, but what I feel is really a lot that's lacking is in the S sector. When you are self-employed or doing your own small businesses, it is a very lonely journey. It is almost the fact that you don't know where to seek help from. Thankfully, I had partners who were quite supportive. We would listen to each other out, we would share some of our problems, and we would help each other out. So I think having a business partner for starting your first business is definitely helpful. I would recommend it actually, but the only thing that I would say to add on top of that is to just make sure everything you do, everything you say, just make it black and white. I know it's very difficult for you to talk business with your friend and things in black and white. It just makes it so awkward. Trust me, it is not. There would have been so much lesser heart pain that I would have experienced if I did that back then. Self-employment is just like a game that you have to play and to manage your resources and your cash flow at the same time and then make it work. I have limited exposure in B and I, so I will get guests to come in and talk to you about those things. But yeah, as usual, thank you so much for being here with me in this episode. It is absolutely crazy to be here talking about entrepreneurship. I would like to end this episode with hoping that you would do something for yourself today and you would start your own thing. Cheers. Bye-bye.